Hi, and thank you for joining us for this episode of The State of Leadership Simple and Beyond. That is Robert Hilliard. I am Whitney Wiley, and we are here on Thursdays, 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, talking all things leadership. And this week, we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. And one of my favorite topics to tie in is sports. I, I'm all about bringing the lessons from sports, whether it's something I play or just sports that we are watching. It is that time of year, right? We're in the middle of March Madness, and so college basketball is going on, both the women's and the men. But we're going to be talking about, well, I don't know, maybe something from college basketball will come up. But what sparked the topic today is, and this is in the news. So 1 week, one episode each month, we try to make sure we talk about something that is in the news that's relevant to leadership. And there was an article about a game that happened actually last week with the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors. And as has been known to happen a couple of times,
Oh,
Draymond Green got ejected from the game. And he got ejected from the game again. It's interesting because I didn't actually watch the game for I don't know why, but for whatever reason, maybe it wasn't available that particular game. So I didn't watch it, but I did see clips of it afterwards, and that the game hadn't even been going on for a couple of minutes at the point at which this dude got ejected, which has happened more than once, where within the opening minutes of the game, he's gotten ejected. So he got ejected, but we're not here to talk about Draymond and his needs, and he has some. He could use a coach or a therapist or something. I'm not sure, or maybe both. But we are here to talk about the emotional intelligence of Steph Curry, who some people question his ability to be a good leader of the team, and because I so the commentators on I think they're on TNT or TBS, whoever, Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith,
yeah.
that particular show. So I don't remember which. I think it's on TBS. Doesn't matter. But they have questioned whether or not Steph Curry is a good leader because I think they believe he should be stronger and more forceful in his leadership, and somehow he should be able to control Draymond Green. So, I would be interested, one, before we dive deep into the
Mhm.
emotional intelligence, I'd be interested on your thoughts on that, Robert, but also from the audience. If you're listening, what are your thoughts on that? And so, whether it's Steph Curry and the team, they're all grown men playing a game, right? And it is a team. They have been known in the past as being quite the team with their model strength and numbers, and um but corporate environments as well. And how far does someone need to go who is a leader of a team in terms of where you're leading peers, right? So this is not, Steph is not someone who has any legitimate authority over Draymond. They are peers in this, and Draymond's been called a leader of the team as well. So his particular behavior in a corporate setting, what does one do? And should one be stronger or more forceful? And then we'll jump into the whole emotional intelligence aspect of it. So I'm just curious what you're thinking.
Oh, wow. This is one of the things that I really focus on. So it makes a lot of sense you'd ask me that. But the thing that people get wrong is that leadership is always about being strong and in someone's face. In leadership theory, that's called management by exception A. That's the micromanaging. Looking for mistakes. You don't give a whole lot of praise. That's management by exception. That is the active version of management by exception. When people think about leadership, that's usually what they see or what they think about or what the picture that pops into their head. That is not effective long term. You use that kind of leadership when the house is on fire. Now, when things are that's when you can use that kind of leadership.
Some people might say the Warriors are on fire.
But here's the thing. You can use that, but here's the thing that Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith don't have is they don't have constant contact with Draymond Green. They don't know how he
True.
responds to that. Steph Curry does, or probably does. So he's probably not going to use that type of leadership with him because it's not effective.
Right.
He seems to be the type of person that if he's going to get into uh, an altercation with somebody, or if he's swinging, if you try to hold him back, you're going to get hit. That's
Yeah.
not the type of leadership you should employ with somebody like that. I'm sure it's already been tried and failed. You have to take a different approach. So that's one thing. And I say this with a lot of some of my clients who have gotten in trouble using that type of leadership, that very authoritarian, dictatorial type of leadership, and they chide themselves and they go, I can't believe I fell into that trap. And I go, well, it's very natural that you fell into that trap. Here's a little homework assignment. Pull up any movie that's been created about management or leadership, and you will see most likely leaders using that type of leadership.
Yeah.
It's been romanticized as that's what you're supposed to do, and it doesn't always work. So that's my thought on that.
Okay. I'm probably of the same opinion. I don't think it's something that would work for him, although he seems to think it's something that he can do with other people. And so again, I would suggest that and I don't know what he did. He was suspended earlier this year for 19, 20 games, something like that. It was an indefinite
Yes.
suspension and seemed sort of short to me. But not that notwithstanding, and I don't know what he was supposed to do while he was gone, other than he needed to somehow get his anger under control.
Mhm.
Don't know that that's happened. It's certainly one of the things that needs to happen for him and anyone, and this goes to being part of a team, is that the needs of the team have to outweigh the needs of the individuals. And yes, you need to take care of yourself, and but if it is always about you and your his emotional intelligence, Draymond's in this situation, and not being able to control that, that needs some work. That definitely needs some work. So, um, and I suppose we could ultimately talk about his emotional intelligence or lack thereof. But the article that prompted this, we'll get to that. The article that prompted this discussion is an Inc. magazine article that was drafted by, and it's an expert opinion piece by Justin Barizzo. And I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he talks about Steph's response to the ejection. He called it brilliant, right? He said it was a brilliant lesson in emotional intelligence. And I tend to agree with that. and how and I saw some clips of Steph apparently, assumably, I don't know that this is the case, that he cried, right? And it was probably a release of he didn't like boohoo, you know, Kim Kardashian ugly cry. Not that kind of thing. But he had some tears, probably from frustration, right? And what's considered brilliant in this is that he had his emotional response to what happened, probably flashing all kinds of things that have happened up till now and seeing their season sort of blowing up, had an emotional response, and then pulled it together to continue to do what he's supposed to do, which is to be an adult and a professional and continue to play the game.
Well, you know, first of all, I think it's okay that he cried. It's this notion that some people have that men don't cry. He cried, he got over it, and he did the job. And I think that's the main thing is like he didn't let his emotions overwhelm him. And you will see this I see it in a lot of sports where somebody's playing and something just doesn't go as planned and the person just falls apart. They can't seem
Yes.
to get it back together again. Their emotions get involved and then they start overthinking what they're doing, and before you know it, they might as well just put their racket or give the ball to go back, sit on the bench, whatever sport, and just not play. But the brilliant thing about what Steph did was he's like, look, this is the beginning of the game. We have work to do. This is their
Yeah.
job. So he, got his emotions under control. And then what I loved about the article, it said that he got everybody involved. He usually averages 5 assists a game. He got 10 this game because he knew that he had to get other people involved to, whether it was unconsciously or he was consciously thinking this, because you don't have that member on the team, right? So let's get some other people involved there. And they ended up winning the game. So he really exhibited the second portion of emotional intelligence, which is emotional management, just really managing your emotions, which can be really hard to do because when in the moment, when things are chaotic, you got your teammate that's getting ejected again, right? Again, the game is just starting. Are you kidding me? These are things that are running in the back of your head. Are you kidding me? What is this guy's problem? And it's like, look, I can't get caught up in all of that. I gotta play. And so
Right.
that is not only, to me, is that really the height of emotional intelligence. It's great leadership. It's leading by example. It's getting other people involved, and it's showing and putting them in a place where they can succeed as well, and then putting the group or the team ahead of your individual self, which is I think was fantastic.
Absolutely. So you make a good point, which is that we should take a half a step back, all right, and talk about what emotional intelligence is, lay out the components of that. So, you mentioned emotional management, self management. What are the other components of emotional intelligence?
Emotional awareness, self-awareness. That's knowing what's going on inside you. A lot of people don't know that. They get stymied. They're like, I feel something. It may be anger, it may be frustration. Um, but knowing exactly what you're feeling, a lot of times I work with my clients like, know what are the warning signs that you're feeling something. Where do you feel it in your body? That is huge. So that will help you pinpoint what's going on, is knowing the physical sensation of the emotions that are bubbling up inside you. So it's emotional awareness, emotional management. Then you have the other part, which is social awareness, knowing what's going on in other people, being able to read the emotions of other folks, whether it's through their tone of voice, their body language, the words they say, the combination of those things. And then you have relationship management, which are building relationships, building rapport with other people so that you can have synergy. So the result is greater than the sum of all the parts together.
Absolutely. And building on that, when you look at this situation with the team last week in Curry in particular, right? That self-awareness piece, that he would recognize his feelings, his emotions, and the potential impact his actions have on the rest of the team, which is where the leadership piece comes into this. If I, as the leader of this team, or one of the leaders of this team, one is gone, I fall apart, can't get my act together, what message does that send to the rest of the team, right? What's the potential impact of my actions if I can't get my emotions in control? And so that self-awareness, self-management piece of being able to pull it together, right? This doesn't mean that he doesn't ever deal with the feelings, the emotions, but in the moment, right? I've got to recognize that this is what's going on with me. There's a bigger picture in the moment. Let's deal with what's here now, and then I can address the feelings, how I'm doing, how I'm managing them, not managing them, dealing with my teammate offsite, etc. Right? And going back to another situation actually involving Draymond Green a couple of years ago when Kevin Durant was on the team, there was a whole incident where he sort of verbally attacked Kevin Durant, right? Again, this piece I see about self awareness is not recognizing what it is you're feeling, probably frustration for whatever reason, not being able to recognize that something is going on, and then attacking other people. And I've been in situations where I've worked with someone, underneath someone, actually, a boss in the past, who was known for sort of letting his frustrations come out and yelling at people, right? Attacking people in public in front of other people, and not addressing, not recognizing what he was feeling, putting a name to it, and then figuring out how can I channel what I'm feeling in a way that's productive with the rest of the team rather than spewing. And so for most people, spewing, getting spewed at, right, attacked in public is not a good thing. There probably are some people where that might be helpful for a split second in terms of pattern interruption, and having someone sort of maybe yell at you or be a little short with you will snap you out of something and help you get back into the moment. But for most people, getting yelled at, particularly in front of other people, is not helpful.
No, it's not helpful. The only person that it helps is the person that's doing the spewing, because it makes them feel better about themselves. It makes them feel powerful. But that stuff, it backfires. They may not see it. Look, I worked with somebody, and this is funny because when you sent me the article, I started thinking about this person that I used to work with that was terrifying to other people, not to me because I really didn't interact with them too much. But people were frightened of this person. They would yell at people all the time. They would humiliate people all the time. They would just castigate people. New CEO came in, and I mentioned this on my show. My manager had mentioned that person to the CEO, and the CEO was like, "Well, this person gets the job done." So wasn't really too concerned about how that person got the job done. They just get the job done. Well, that CEO left, and the new CEO came in and terminated that person. because he didn't like how they operated. He's
Mm-hmm.
so it catches up with you. It does. And but going back to something else, a lot of times people have a hard time understanding what's going on with them, and that's understandable when it comes to emotions. They can't really pinpoint the emotion because we tend to give lots of different names to the emotions. But according to the people that really focus on emotional intelligence, there's five core emotions: happiness, anger, fear, sadness, and shame. Everything else is derived from those five core emotions. And if you can use that as your North Star, it will help you, more easily pinpoint what's going on. But I do believe that some people, when they should, when it's apparent that they lack emotional intelligence, they know what they're doing. Right? They just don't know how to do something different.
Right.
Different. Yeah.
And the point should be then, if people around you are talking to you, other people, and this doesn't happen for everyone, and certainly probably not even most people, right? The people that we're talking about right now are in the spotlight, they're in the limelight. There are other people who are publicly commenting on their behaviors, their attitudes, their emotions, etc. And so there is at least an advantage for them to have people saying something about them that they could stop for a second and say, maybe I should think about this, whether it's Steph or Draymond or whomever, right? Most of us may not have that, where there are certainly not publicly people are talking about us in a way that if we don't have our own self-awareness, our own emotional awareness, that other people are calling us on it. And so, one of the benefits probably of being married in a relationship, being having good friends, close family, as those are the people that generally will say something to us to help us to make some changes and correct behaviors. You may not get that in a workplace, right? Someone may not be willing, or there may be no one willing, particularly if the person who is sort of out of touch emotionally is the boss. There's no one who's going to step up and say, hey, dude or chick, you know, get it together, right? If your behavior is 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 out of line and it's not helpful. And so if you don't have anyone that can help hold you accountable and you're already lacking that self-awareness, here's an opportunity for you to ask for input and give people space and the the ability to actually share with you something that can be helpful to you and ultimately the team.
That is a statistic that is often cited when people talk about emotional intelligence. CEOs usually have less emotional intelligence than other people because they don't need it. They use their position power to get what they want, so they don't engage their emotional intelligence. And that's not me making that up. That's Daniel Goleman and all those experts. It's the research, and that's I tend to believe them. I've seen it. I've seen CEOs fly off the handle and really just lay into people in public, and you scream at people and berate them. I've also seen some amazing CEOs that didn't do that. Those are the ones that are truly successful. Those
Yeah.
are the ones that really know how to create synergy. They know how to, I should say, take advantage of it. They know how to have really successful teams. They are willing to listen to other people. They can hold back those emotions, and they don't always go to let me beat this person up
Yeah.
to get my point across. Those CEOs are they'll have some success, but the ones that really engage their emotional intelligence have amazing success.
Absolutely. And then you had talked about the other two aspects, the social awareness, and it just made me think of, particularly as you laid it out in the article, laid it out. It's the beginning of the game, right? And Steph then, consciously or unconsciously, right, recognizes that again, I am a leader of this team, one of the leaders on this team, and if I fall apart, how will that impact the others? How will that impact the morale of the rest of the team and the dynamics of our ability to move forward towards our goal, which is to win the game. And then taking that the next step and managing what happens for the team in terms of rallying and stepping up his game to involve other people. And it's it, again, if we don't have awareness, self-awareness, the social awareness, paying attention to what's going on around us, because we're in our feelings, as they say, right? We're in our feelings and sort of blinded to what's going on. Then the question is, as someone who is in charge, right, or a peer leader, what's the purpose? What truly is your purpose? When And that goes to, our concept of simple, right? And purposefulness is a part, one of the pillars of that. The purposefulness, what is your purpose as a leader? If it is not to bring people, this is constantly, continuously, right, bringing them back to what we're here to do, which means paying attention to all the little things that may escape other people. This is not about you being perfect or getting it right all the time, but having some awareness around that, that is your purpose as a leader, right? And being in control of your emotions and helping others around you to be in control, to recognize, be in control, and manage theirs as well, is how you actually lift the team. Otherwise, you should go play tennis, singles.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about what you were saying before, and part of this is having that leadership with your peers. There are some people that think that if you don't have a title, you're not a leader. Everybody's a leader in some capacity. You have those emergent leaders in organizations that don't have titles, but somehow everybody comes to that person. Everyone seeks advice from that person. Everyone follows that person. When that person speaks, everyone's like, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to go do that. That person doesn't have a title. They may have the same exact title that you have. They're an emergent leader. They're leading based on their talents, their personality. Maybe it's their expertise. Maybe that's where they derive their charisma from. Maybe they're well liked. Maybe they have very high emotional intelligence. The other aspect of that is that when someone has high emotional intelligence, you can see it. When people have high IQ, sometimes you can't really see that. You can't see that because it's in their head. Unless they're talking to you and explaining something, a concept to you, you're not going to see someone's IQ necessarily. But emotional intelligence you can see in other people by how they interact with you. And the other aspect of IQ is that it's relatively fixed. It doesn't move much.
Right.
Emotional intelligence can be grown, and it can be lost too. So it's one of those things that you have to work at to constantly, hone your emotional intelligence if you want to take advantage of it. And one last thing, people that do that, who hone their emotional intelligence, will make more money and be more successful
Mm-hmm.
necessarily than people with high IQ. So it's worth digging into and doing some work in this area.
And so, speaking of work, how does one do that work? How does one actually make those strides and improve it and increase their emotional intelligence?
Well, you know what I'm going to say. Yeah, there's tons of books out there. There's tons of books out there in emotional intelligence. I used to teach an emotional intelligence workshop. I created one and I taught it, and just doing that work, just building that, helped me become more emotional intelligent. But one of the things I will say is do the work. Know what the components of emotional intelligence are. So whether it's taking a workshop or there's tons of videos out there. I think Daniel Goleman may have a thing out there, and he's known as the father of emotional intelligence, even though he didn't coin the phrase. But also, there are tons of really good resources out there. Journal constantly, especially when it comes to self-awareness and self-management. Hey, what was I feeling when this situation occurred? How did I respond? Was it helpful? Was it a hindrance? What good parts of that do I want to continue to do and monitor to make sure I'm getting successful results? What part of that do I want to get rid of because it was not helpful? What do I need to work on? Is it calming myself down when I get excited? There's so many different ways we can go with this. Where do you feel it in your body when you get excited, when you get upset, or when you get angry? What can you do to calm yourself down when you feel that? What has worked in the past? I can go on and on and on and on, but those are some ways you can start to work on your emotional intelligence.
You know, it's I would agree with you, right? Particularly around the self-awareness piece, but all pieces, journaling, hugely important, and being willing to be reflective and introspective is is the is the start. I would say the start. It's not the end all be all, but taking the time to look at situations and asking the question of whether or not you got from that situation what you wanted, right? Did that turn out the way you want it? Is it are it, here's something. If you're feeling any semblance of guilt or regret about a situation and how you handled something, there's a key that you need to spend some time being reflective and introspective. And rather than feeling guilty or regret and just letting that build, look for some lessons in that. That's feedback, right? That's your own personal feedback. And so taking the time to understand that is hugely important. So journaling, asking people for asking people for feedback, right? Not only the feedback of emotions of feeling bad or guilt or regret, but asking someone and again giving people permission to actually um, it, share what they're thinking, which means not being defensive when you get when people say what they say. And books, right? You started there with books, and definitely, definitely read, take classes, um, workshops, and take the time to learn not only about emotional intelligence as a tool or a skill, but about yourself. And so assessments can be helpful for you in this area. And an assessment that you administer is the ELI, right? The Energy Leadership Index.
Mhm.
And so having some additional understanding of who you are from an objective source can be helpful. And then working with a coach, right? Being a part of an accountability group where people are sharing with you, providing feedback, helping you to analyze what it is you're doing and how you're doing it, and whether or not it's getting you the results so in the way that you actually want.
Absolutely. There's so many, different ways that to enhance your emotional intelligence, like you were saying. You said something else that I want to touch on really quickly. You said getting feedback from other people. That is huge, but be very mindful who you get feedback from. Um, especially
We
if,
seem to be having some technical
yeah,
difficulties.
there's a big lag here. Can you hear me okay now?